Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Jan Joannides is the Executive Director of Renewing the Countryside, and she joins me today to tell a little bit about the organization and the effort to help fund agriculture entrepreneurs. Welcome to Farm Connections, Jan.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you because you've got something to tell the audience about your business and how you got it started. What is it?
Well, Renewing the Countryside is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's been around for about 12 years. I was one of the co-founders of the organization, and we really started it because we wanted to be able to, initially our focus was telling the stories of innovative, creative things that were happening in the rural areas of Minnesota.
And how's it going?
It's going great. We went from initially really focusing on stories, and so our very first project, even before we were an organization, was doing a book called Renewing the Countryside Minnesota, where we showcased 42 different farms, businesses, community initiatives across the state that were just really finding ways to kind of give back to their communities while making a living, while taking care of the environment. And that kind of led to additional publications with other groups in other states. But then we moved on beyond telling stories and really started to kind of dive into how do we help these businesses and kind of aspiring entrepreneurs who want to be able to do this sort of thing.
So who might seek you for advice?
Well, one of the areas that we found a lot of interest is we started doing farmer-buyer speed dating.
Okay.
And then we started doing farmer lunch lady speed dating. And so our audience on both those sides was that we were talking to farmers who were growing fruits and vegetables, or nuts, grains that could feed into restaurants or institutions, but they really didn't know how to get there. They didn't know, do I go and just knock on the door of every restaurant in my community? And they just didn't really know where to start. And at the same time, we were talking to restaurants and schools who said, well, we'd really love to get this product, but what do we do? Do we just pick up the Minnesota Grown Guide and start dialing, every number? So we had heard about this being done in the Pacific Northwest, and so we thought, well, we can take that idea and do it here. And so we started having these sessions where we would bring together, we would invite both kind of farmers interested in selling to these buyers, and we'd bring the buyers. We do a little education on, if you're a farmer and you want to sell to a restaurant, this is what you need to know. And if you're a restaurant and you're going to buy from a farmer, maybe it's good to know that things are seasonal and you can't get strawberries in the middle of winter from a Minnesota farmer unless they're frozen. And then we actually have kind of a very speed dating sort of model where we give people, we have them talk to each other for 5 minutes, ring a bell, and have them talk to the next person. And that's been a really successful program of ours.
Very dynamic.
It is, so and people love it, yeah.
You're a matchmaker.
I'm a matchmaker, yes, that's a lot of what we do.
Can you give me an example of something that really worked well in that process? A case study, if you will.
Well, I think one of our favorite case studies is that, and we've done these across the state, but we did one up in, I think it was at the Arboretum that we did it. And so it was, just outside of the edge of the Twin Cities. And we called one of the farmers that we worked with and we said, he's like, well, why should I come to this? And we said, well, this is a really good opportunity to meet these people, see if it's a market, if it's something you're interested in. He was a little skeptical, but he came, and he's ended up being a supplier to the Hopkins School District, and they are kind of like the poster, Hopkins and Greg Reynolds are the poster children for this kind of farm to school efforts throughout the state. And we have other good examples too, but that was one of them that came out of that.
Why is that important to connect those people and do those things with the food supply?
Well, I think one of the issues is, our commodity agricultural systems are really set up very well. There's been a lot of effort and time and thought into how to make those work, and so they're very efficient, and the markets are set up. But with some of these more direct markets, outside of farmers markets, there really haven't been good pathways. And so what it means is that you have these small business people, the farmers, who don't have a marketing team and an R&D team, and they tend to be themselves, maybe have a few employees, maybe have a number of employees during the the top season, but they just don't have that. The systems aren't in place, so it's become really important to try and make it more efficient for them, so that they can actually, make a living doing what they're doing.
And speaking of making a living, not only providing for that family, but let's say a farm family is local or in Minnesota and is gaining their livelihood from Minnesota businesses. What does that do for the community that the farmer lives in?
I think that that's critical, and that's one of the things, we end up working quite a bit with farmers, but I think one of the things that we're very interested in is how do you keep, smaller communities vibrant, and you have to have people there. So while I don't personally have a problem with large farms, if we just have 2 or 3 owners in a county of all of the farmland, that also means you aren't going to have those farm families, and so then you don't have schools, you don't have church, you need those people to go to those places to buy at the local, the local hardware store, whatever it is, that it really does have a ripple effect back into the economy. And we also have found that these, kind of these smaller farmers also tend to be really civically engaged and engaged in their communities.
And that's important.
That is very important, yes.
And I think the work you're doing would take a lot of time and effort, am I correct?
It does, and we're a very small organization, but how we've gotten around that is that we partner with dozens and dozens of organizations, and so we really have often played the role of either being a catalyst, or if somebody else is a catalyst, kind of joining in and helping to work on those efforts. So whenever we do an event, whether it's one of those farmer buyer events, or we've been doing some women caring for the land events, which are really focused on women farmland owners who aren't operators, in those cases we work with the Soil and Water District, and we work with Extension, and we work with the local watershed partnerships, and we work with the University of Minnesota Regional Sustainable Development Partnership. So, but kind of by partnering, we're able to, have a larger reach, and it makes for easier work.
And leveraging your talents and time.
Yes. Yeah.
How does someone find out more?
Well, we have a website. It's called renewingthecountryside.org, and in southern Minnesota in particular, we are part of the Feast Local Food Network, and that is an initiative that was really seeded by the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, but it's a network of, there are probably 80 to 100 people involved, some representing organizations, some individuals who are really interested in kind of growing the local foods economy in Minnesota. And we've really taken that opportunity to do a couple of things. One, we have this, and you really have to come, we have this Feast Local Foods Festival and Marketplace in Rochester. This will be our 2nd year, where we bring the farm and food entrepreneurs together for a day to let people kind of taste and buy kind of the local things. It's kind of a farmer's market on steroids, maybe.
Well, thank you for the important work you do, Jan. Keep us posted.
All right, thank you so much.
And thanks for joining us.
All right.